What's that?
I don't need my mic. All right, you got her number.
Yeah, I'm gonna toss this pen right now.
Oh, yeah.
Tell them they
I
call
want
us
some in the
Mr.
trash. Don't work, they leaking, don't.
I toss mine immediately, usually.
Me too.
I hope they
I don't like the frustration.
Just gonna end up with my washing machine.
Hey, bro, Compton. Bro, Chief Compton. Chief Compton. Did you go to the planning commission meeting? Did you go to the planning commission meeting?
What they have on the agenda?
it was short. They didn't,
They had talks.
it was short.
Can you see us?
Can you see us now?
No, I'm driving.
Oh, okay.
Hi, Mr. This is Vivian Flowers. How are you?
I've seen it, but I haven't.
I'm doing fine.
I didn't have it.
If that screen is looking mighty gray, I was like, what is this
Writing
stuff?
stuff up, but that's why I didn't want to send it out, 'cause it had notes on it.
Good to hear your voice. I'm glad everything went smoothly.
Yeah,
And they said it was
it
gonna be
worked
changed
out
to it,
fine. It worked out fine. So we're just waiting to hear from the
I
state
think
now.
this thing about the audit, we had to add that in there.
I did, since you all are
Great.
there, I did get a call
Great.
yesterday from a young man who lived in Pine Bluff.
What's up, man?
And he's
Yeah.
donating 10,000 and his business is donating 20.
Hey, did you see Carrie's pictures of the wedding?
He said he went to Ridgeway.
Oh, okay.
And so
Did you see Carrie's pictures of the wedding from over the weekend?
that was some good.
Damn, something was nice, wasn't it? Man, I think that's beautiful. Like when she was standing outside with the dress and had the little, whatever, it looked like some snowflakes or something around. I said, oh yeah, he did his thing. Man, I don't know if you ever talked to, I don't know if you ever talked to, guess what he trying, guess what he finna get? 5. I think so. Yeah. He said he knows some guy who live there, and I guess he work up at the photo store. And he said, he just bought a 24 to 7 G Master too. And so then, cause I think he had a A7 II or A7 something, but it wasn't that. But now he got A705.
Yeah,
And
man, I didn't know this what we were doing today.
I said, get it, boy. I know. But he was a Canon man. I mean, he said he got off with the Sony. He been loving it, but he still love Canon glass. Yeah, Canon got the best. I say, in my opinion, always got the best glass. The color editions and all that. I mean, it's just beautiful. But Man, I had to switch up all the way around. I guess I could just buy the mirrorless body and use the old lens. Yeah, but you know them old lenses are heavy.
A few minutes ago.
But when I stuck that 24 to 70 on my Sony, I like, good Lord. And then and look, ain't even about the 70 to 200. That bad boy, that's a tank.
Oh yeah, you already know. You know the feel.
Whew.
Roger just on the
Man.
side, so you know how to.
So are we staying around or fit?
Y'all going to Bone and Thug, Bone and...
Is that this weekend?
Is that what they got going on there?
Wait a minute, I don't even see nothing from.
We're not waiting on anything, are we? Are we waiting on anything?
Brown said that.
Clerk Roberts, are we waiting on something?
No.
Oh, okay, I just want to make sure. Okay, you got that already. All right.
I don't know who said that. I don't see.
I don't think it was here, 'cause I don't think it was here. Brown said they were supposed to send me, but they had some issue.
So whenever you're ready to record, I'm ready to go.
Okay.
Yeah.
Anyone need extra copy of the legislation?
Let's see if there was somebody else, Ms. Denton or somebody. Okay. Testing, okay. There you go.
Recording in progress.
We're good.
Michael, you took my sound.
Go ahead.
Okay. All right, good evening, everybody. Tonight, I'm going to go ahead and call the Ways and Means Committee meeting to order. Today is Tuesday, August 26, 2025, and it's approximately 5:37 p.m. Council members present, we have Councilmember Mays and Councilmember Holcomb as committee members, but we also have Council members Brunson and Lockett. Lockett present as well. Is there anyone on Zoom?
Yes. Councilmember Frazier and Councilmember Fells.
Council members Frazier and Fells are on Zoom. Tonight we have two agenda items, two ordinances. The first one is a ordinance providing for the levy of a new 1% sales and use tax within the city of Pine Bluff, Arkansas for a period of 10 years and prescribing other matters pertaining thereto. That is our first ordinance for discussion. Oh, sure, Mayor, go ahead. I didn't know if the committee members had anything, but if not, the mayor.
If I could go ahead and, present.
Sure,
Thank
sure, go right ahead.
Thank you so much. And I want to thank you, Chair Brown, for calling this meeting so that we could discuss this. And I think that what I want to note first is that I have, for a long time, for about a year and a half, been talking about the need for resources, but to make sure that we levy the resources for the right reasons and in the right way. And I will start off by reiterating something that I shared when I did my State of the City address earlier this year. And one of the things we did was to provide this So this was just a little handout to share with the public in particular where we get our revenue from and how we spend that money, and also what our debt looks like. And so I just wanted to go over that really quickly and note that since most people really kind of don't know, I'll just outline it right now to start. Our revenue in 2024 was $48,304,082. And that came from several sources. From sales taxes, which is almost half of the revenue that we generate, city licenses, fines, and fees from the state of Arkansas, from the casino, property taxes, franchise fees, miscellaneous other, and the federal government. And then what goes out is just a little less than what we collect. Those expenses with a little over $26 million in debt. Now, if I can point to over the last 8+ months, we have done our best to be diligent to reach out to people to find out through our transition process what the people would like and expect in the way of town hall meetings, surveys, et cetera, that resulted in many recommendations, which are provided on the city's website, but were also printed in this document. Many of those recommendations were confirming some of the promises we made and the priorities we set in my particular administration, but also things that people have been wanting, needing, and asking for a long time. And I'll just point out, for example, potholes and overlay, attention to the drainage system. The primary areas of focus that I've been repeating for the length of time that I've been talking about the need for resources has been youth investment, economic development with a focus on infrastructure, and tourism, as well as public safety. And that is how we arrived over time through fleshing out the process and the language here tonight. I've also had several conversations with all of our city council members over time and talking about my intent to, at some point, make sure that we do everything we can to raise the revenue, to raise the capital, so that we can address the city's needs as well as the city's dreams for the kind of growth that we know we want to and can experience here in the city of Pine Bluff. And then I will also address what some may think is the elephant in the room, but really just our history. We know that there was a previous tax initiative that some people supported, some people didn't. There were many things I think that we saw that all culminated in what we saw this past weekend, which was a beautiful time and a beautiful structure. And I think that at the end of the day, no matter what people feel or felt about the 2018 Sales and Use Tax Initiative, what people wanted to see and still want to see is growth and development and stability and prosperity in our city, coming from a lot of different needs that I'll outline in just a few minutes. And so from that process, also just in the process of dealing with the day-to-day and seeing the needs within city government and then within our communities across all 4 of our wards, is how we have arrived to what I believe will be an opportunity to address those issues that we did not have the capital to address before. What we're proposing is a 10-year, 1 cent sales and use tax. There will be no forever tax. So the end period would happen after 10 years. It would begin January 1. The election would take place on November 18th. And right now we are here in committee to seek recommendation that we go to the next phase, which would be to allow the city council to vote on this measure for the levy of the tax, as well as to put the tax on the ballot for a November 18th election. Some of those needs, many of those needs have been outlined in a resolution that would also be presented to the council at the time, at a later date. I think the first thing that, as a part of this process that has to be done, is to simply approve levying the tax and for moving it toward being placed on the ballot for November. I'll also talk a little bit right now about the timing of this. I have asked why now and not in March or next November. The first primary issue is time is of essence. We don't have time to continue to lose population, to lose opportunity to solicit and support entrepreneurs and small business, to make the repairs that need to be made across our city in different areas. And because this process is a process and we wouldn't even begin to collect taxes until January, we would not see revenue in our coffers until toward the end of the first quarter of next year. If we started this process in March or even November, we would not see any additional resources to address long-standing needs until 2027 or well into 2027. So that is why now. However, I think that I'd also like to point out that we are ready, because what I know that the people have asked for and what we have sought to provide in this process and even in the collection of this proposed tax is transparency and accountability. We have announced in the last 2 weeks that we followed up on our promise to secure funding for a forensic audit. A forensic audit is basically a full audit versus a sample audit, which is what the state does. This forensic audit was announced or advertised just about 2 weeks ago. It'll be 2 weeks tomorrow, to accounting firms across this state and in adjacent states, so that we can secure the professional services of an accounting firm to conduct that full audit. For the last 2 years of all of our city departments under the mayor's office and some independent departments that have elected to utilize this opportunity for the full audit, as well as all 7 years of expenses and revenue collected and spent associated with the 2018 sales and use tax. That will, I think, provide information for what we did right and what we can do better and what went wrong. And that is not to go back in time and to sit on our hands and wait for that documentation and for that information. That is to make sure that some of our missteps never happen again. And we are not only conducting this forensic audit that is currently being advertised for just this sales and use tax initiative that we're proposing at this time. It's really for how we do business as a city moving forward. In addition, though, in the language, and if the council will take a look at the particular ordinance we're looking at and look at section 4 on page 2, we have also included a high level of insurance for transparency and accountability in this measure. And it reads, there shall be a biennial forensic audit of expenditure of the sales and use tax collections received by the city. The expense of the audits may be paid with the sales and use tax collections received by the city or such other sources approved by the city council for such purposes. The forensic audit shall be performed by an independent certified public accounting firm approved by the city council. The audit shall be filed with the city clerk when completed and shall be put on the city's website. So for the 10-year period, every 2 years, we will take a look back at all activities associated with this sales and use tax and provide that information to the public, to the press, and of course to our city council to ensure that as we move ahead toward progress, that we are doing so with transparency and accountability. Now, how this works is, in addition to the levying of the tax or approval for the levy of the tax, and then also for approval of putting it on a November ballot, we would also, at some point during this process, provide a resolution that dictates the details around which we would expend these funds. And we put a lot of thought into how we would identify this without being able to provide a specific estimate for our priority projects, because as the procurement process works, that takes time, and we know that as we speak, the cost of things due to inflation increases. But that's an important point for us to think about. Every procurement process would take place within our process in city government, which means that all documentation would be FOIable, which means that the city council and the mayor's office would be the beginning and the end of the process that takes place. And these are all individuals who are elected by the public and accountable to the public. And I think that's an important point to make in terms of how we would operate in receiving or levying this tax and expending the funds therefrom. And finally, I will be open to questions after I outline or share with you how we would outline the collection and organization of these tax dollars to expend for city needs. What we've done is created 8 categories which would receive 12.5% of the taxes, of the tax dollars. The first being transportation, and if you'll indulge me, I'll go ahead and read some of the language so that there can be understanding of exactly how and why we have identified these particular categories. So for transportation, for the expansion and repair of the Port of Pine Bluff Railroad, Pine Bluff Regional Airport to improve transportation connectivity and product distribution, as well as support commerce and logistics hubs. Priority will be placed on infrastructural repairs to the Port of Pine Bluff. Public Works. For infrastructural upgrades and improvements to streets, traffic signal, and ADA accessibility systems, sidewalks, downtown broadband expansion, sewer and stormwater system upgrades, priority will be placed on a citywide street assessment and traffic safety plan, street repair, and street overlay. Municipal capital improvements and equipment. For addressing deferred maintenance backlogs, upgrade technology and communication systems, improve operational and capital sustainability, priority will be placed on deferred maintenance backlogs as well as upgrading technology and communication systems. And I want to touch on these three in particular. What does this mean for the people? So I read all of that. What this means is filling potholes, not just in one area, not just with carryover funds. This means filling potholes and making sure that we treat our streets with the appropriate overlay throughout our city, in our high traffic areas and main thoroughfares, as well as many neglected communities that we are addressing with carryover funds today. But without additional dollars, we would not be able to fully address the city the way that we need to. With Public Works, I think that, with transportation, our port, we've talked a lot about our transportation hub, about having the benefit of rail, air, interstate, and a port. And when you have one of the oldest ports in the state, but we can't afford to expand that port because we have $10 to $12 million in repairs we need to make, when we have an industrial park with businesses throughout, only one of those businesses exports outside of this country, that means that we are sorely lacking in the opportunity to expand our economy, to bring in more tax dollars, to increase our tax base, and most importantly, to bring in jobs. Municipal capital improvements. I'll give you an example. In this complex, we still have elevators that need repair. We have over $2 million of deferred maintenance repairs that we need to make just in City Hall. So those kinds of neglected projects and repairs affect everyday people. The additional, and I won't belabor this, the additional remaining categories: public safety. We've talked about lights. We've talked about a real-time crime center, and we have reserved some of those funds. But expanding GVI, making sure that the proper resources for equipment and programming goes to animal control, making sure that our fire department has the adequate resources for doing what they need to do. Those are all paramount, and all of those would be priority. Economic development for new capital improvement projects, entrepreneurship, and small business development. We cannot expect retail, we cannot expect small businesses, we can't even expect a grocery store. Those are all for-profit businesses, not non-profit ventures to assist a community. We have to make sure that we are deliberate in providing programming and resources to draw small business and entrepreneurs to our community, and not just in downtown, but throughout the city of Pine Bluff. Housing and blight eradication, we know that it costs a great deal of money. We're spending money right now through code enforcement and the fire department just in tearing down 3 houses. And we know that we have hundreds in the city to do. We do not have the capacity to do that with just code enforcement, fire department, even street department. We need additional resources and we need assistance. So central to blight, central to housing, developing our housing, we have to also invest in blight eradication in a more aggressive way, which takes money. Tourism development and promotion, you just saw that there were cuts with the A&P Commission. We have a brand new hotel coming and a completely underdeveloped, aging convention center. We must pay attention to both of those. We must pay attention to the beautification of our city. That takes money. And then finally, but not last, youth and senior programming. Whether we're talking about our parks, whether we're talking about continuing and expanding academic enrichment programs like Yeah 8, and certainly the Boys and Girls Club that have served our youth well, whether we're talking about the recommendations that we heard from this community about restoring senior centers, 2 of the 3 that closed in the last several years. All of that would take money, and all of those items would be a priority for us. I think with that, I will stop and take any questions. Thank you.
All right, any questions from council members?
Yes.
Okay, Councilmember Mays?
Thank you, citizens, city council. First of all, just good to be here. It's good to be representing the city of Pine Bluff in a much needed time in our lives. First of all, I am not supporting a tax. It's personal. I think we need to do some more things, fix some more things first before we tax the people again. They're taxed enough. That's all I hear. They already know my position. I am not supporting the tax until I see the streets. The streets are terrible. I know that's in there, but that should have been top priority as far as I'm concerned. We need to make sure our money is going, once again, into the proper places. Now, this go forward tax, I'm just saying, they already took a lot of our money already, and we're gonna get it back from them. And they got my word on that. They're not gonna, we're not blind to what's going on. The citizens want these things fixed, like these streets. You can't just keep dodging potholes and we got a street department. I mean, they have money for potholes. Now we want to go in there and fix a bunch of streets when the street, you don't even see the street department working. Most time when you see them, they're sitting in them trucks. That's just real talk. You know, my ears are with the people. My heart is with the people. And I am not going to let this tax pass without telling them not to vote for it. It needs to die up on start. You know, really. Once again, I am totally against the tax, and I'm gonna do all I can to stop it until we get some more things fixed. It's a cash flow in the city. If it wasn't, we'd have to shut everything down now. We have a cash flow. Make sure we're using our cash flow. We all use our cash flows, right? You just can't say you broke tomorrow when you know you got a cash flow coming. That's a scare tactic. Go ahead.
No, I was just trying to make sure you
Chair,
were
can I speak to that?
Oh, sure, go ahead, ma'am.
Thank you so much. One area where I do agree with Councilmember Mays is that our streets are really important. Where we disagree is that our personnel, our city personnel, isn't doing anything. As a matter of fact, one of the things that I made sure to do was to insist that when we began work focusing on overlay and repairing the potholes, is to get before and after pictures. We have before and after pictures for every pothole that has been addressed since this city council voted affirmatively to use carryover funds to start addressing potholes in some of the long neglected areas, not only on the south side of town, but we made sure to address the west side. And just off of Blake, I believe on 14th Street, there's been a complete overlay. And all throughout that neighborhood, we have addressed potholes that have been there for years. So I would say definitively that our street department is working, and the men and women who dedicate themselves by going to work every day, when many times many folks, including some of us up here, are just getting ready for work or might still be asleep, they're at work and they're working on our streets. And the other point that I would make is, as it relates to the street department, I said this prior to being sworn in, and it is still the truth. Our street department in the last 20 years has declined in size by about half and has declined in funding by about half, while our street area throughout the city has remained the same, if not increased, as we have taken on new areas of street to own from the state. So I think that the bottom line of it with all of this is there is no scare tactic. I believe I started out saying that we're in pretty good shape with our current city finances. We are operating on almost a balanced budget, save for a couple of $1 million extra, that's for sure. But we know that there are not enough. $2 million isn't even enough to address an emergency, let alone all of the overlay that's needed. And so just as it relates to streets, I think what's important to recognize, but really across the board in what we're talking about, is right now we have and bring in enough revenue to pay for how things are right now. We have a little bit extra to cover emergencies that have occurred, whether it's weather related or at the end, picking up projects like we have with streets, as well as for the forensic audit. We have a few extra funds to do that for now. But if we want extra, if we want to address all the potholes, if we want to address all of the overlay that's necessary, we do not have the cash flow for extra. So we have enough money for the status quo. We do not have money for extra. And what I know is that everyone who is sitting up here serving this city and everyone I've talked to want extra. They want more. They want the repairs. They want the improvements. They want the beautification. They want better lighting. They want a repaired port to bring in more jobs. So no scare tactics here. What we're asking today is for this committee to recommend that these measures go to the full council for consideration for our people, to take care of items that we can't afford to take care of without additional revenue. That's the bottom line of it. In terms of financials and proper placement of funds, we are doing well with that. You can look at the current state audits and see that where we can make improvements. We hear back from audit to say, do this next time, do that. And I think you will hear and have heard from our finance director as it relates to any audit findings. all of which at this point have occurred, prior to this year. But we are in good financial health and good financial stead. And in terms of the process moving forward, public education of this community will manifest in several town hall meetings, a large citywide meeting, and as much earned media and as much promotion as we can muster. We have been and will continue to be transparent about this and all other city activity and processes, and we will continue to be accountable. And I'll be happy to take any other questions.
Yes, Mayor.
Yes.
Councilmember Frazier is on Zoom, and I believe she has a question or a comment.
Sure.
Councilmember Frazier.
Okay, and please hear me clearly and hear my heart. We talk about transparency, but I still don't feel transparent.
Councilmember Frazier, hold on
This
just one
meeting
second.
right here, I didn't know what it was going to be in reference to. I tried to find out. I had to find out by going and asking people, and it appears that some city council members knew, but I knew nothing about why we were calling this meeting. So transparency seems to be selective. And I'm just going to say, from a personal standpoint, I feel like I'm being left out. I'm just going to say that. It might not be so, but it appears to be so on my side.
Well, I was left out. I was left out too.
Let me finish. I let everybody else finish. And when it comes to the concerns in reference to levying this tax, when we tried to pass it twice last year, all of these concerns that we're talking about right now were the same concerns that were on the table that the city had. And it was fought against. We could have just tweaked, we could have worked with, we could have worked it out so that way we could still be collecting from it right now. But it was fought against. The people said no twice. And I'm just trying to understand what has changed from last year to this year, because nothing has really changed in reference to the need of what the people were saying they needed then to now. And so I'm just a little concerned that I'm not being talked to in reference to things that are going to come down the pipe when everybody else, it appears, because I talked to a few city council members and it appears that they knew, but I didn't know. So I'm just concerned about, one, the transparency of how this came about. I knew that you was talking about a tax because I wasn't told, but I was told to go look on your Facebook page because you went to Little Rock and talked about a progress report for Pine Bluff in Little Rock and a 1% sales tax in Little Rock, and we don't live in Little Rock. So I'm just a little concerned about this.
If I could.
I'm just going to end it there.
Okay. Well, let me go ahead and speak to that, and I'll start with the last thing you mentioned. I didn't go to Little Rock. I actually was sitting at my desk, and I was on the Power 92 Broadway morning show, and we started doing a segment to do a Pine Bluff progress report, and I mentioned it, and then I was in Little Rock we do that the first and the third Friday, and that is simply to promote progress in Pine Bluff. And I did talk about it, but I've been talking about it. I sat down and talked to you about it at least twice, and have talked to.
About what?
Hold on, just let me finish. I'm not going to go back and forth. I'm just responding to what you just said. I have talked about the needs. I've talked about my priorities. I've talked about a tax consistently. Before I was even formally elected in November of last year, I talked about it. I've talked about it since. I talked about it in the State of the City address. And more recently, we were going to actually address this, but time passed and I didn't make it in time to present with the information that we needed before chairman went on and conducted the meeting. And so he's the chair of the committee, talked about doing this and set a date. And I think that, as far as transparency, I think it's a little disingenuous and really not factual to talk about not being included for a committee that you don't serve on. And I don't know that it's fair to relay that there's a lack of transparency on my part or anyone's part, but for sure, I treated this the way I treat everything else that comes before a committee. And I think everyone up here on this dais knows that it is not the role of the mayor to notify committee members for a committee meeting. And we all know the timeline that's involved. So I regret that you didn't know, but we have a pretty diligent city clerk and a pretty diligent city attorney. And again, you weren't on this committee, but that is one of the reasons we're doing this. We are simply requesting the recommendation so that this was something that would be presented for discussion to the entire council. But I'm certain that...
Ms. Griffin, will you mute? Thanks.
I'm certain that were you on this committee, you would have been notified and you could be here just like Councilmember Brown, just like Councilmember Holcomb, just like Councilmember Mays. And other members are here too. But I can tell you that there was never any effort to exclude you. There hasn't been in my previous communication with you prior to and after being sworn in, and there won't be. And I think that's my response. And if anybody else has any further questions.
I'm just going to say this and I'm going to be done. I understand that I'm not on the committee. A lot of us are not on each other's committee, but information seems to be going to other people and not to, even though I'm not on this committee and I don't have a vote on this committee, I do have a vote on the full council. And just to have a heads up of what you're thinking about doing would be, I'm just saying, would be great. It seems like every time I feel like we're getting in a good place and there we can move forward and things can go well and we can do what we need to do for the city, is stuff like this and other stuff that make me feel like it's just not, it's just impossible to do. So I'm just going to yield and I'm going to end that with that, and I'm not going to say anything else besides this. People that I have been talking to are not, Ward 3 members that I've been talking to are not happy about having another tax on the ballot. So I don't know if it's going to go through the full council or not, but I know, like Stephen Mays, I am not voting for another tax.
Councilmember Frazier, so basically the ordinance is coming through committee. They only receive a recommendation from the committee. Once they've been read in committee, they can be placed on the agenda. So the committee.
I know the process.
Yes, ma'am. Okay.
We've been through it before. I know the process.
Yes, ma'am.
And I do understand, and I know it's going to full committee, and I know the full committee has to make a decision. Again, if we're talking about full transparency, whether we are on a committee or not, and we are the ones that have to vote, why not talk to us ahead of time to let us have an idea of what you are doing? That's all I'm saying.
Well, Councilmember Frazier,
I'm just going to end it with that.
Let me address that. So basically, in committee is where you introduce legislation. This is where you see it. Most of the time, for the first time, is in the committee meeting. A lot of times, if you're not at that committee meeting, or you are, something's presented, a lot of times that is the very first time that you will see that piece of legislation. That's where it gets introduced. So this process is really not any different than any other ordinance or anything else that comes out. No,
I
no.
apologize for jumping in here, but we know we know how it is, and we know that this is where the legislation goes through the committees. But you cannot tell me that there are not conversations before it comes to the committee. That's what I'm saying.
But
I mean, it's like nobody wants to hear what I'm saying.
Councilman Frazier, I understand where you're coming from, but this is the place for that discussion. And so we are here. We've had the meeting at a time where, everybody could be available. It was after work, after working hours, so people could actually attend. It wasn't in the middle of the day or early in the morning where people had other places to be. So this was set intentionally to provide a place for discussion.
And Mr. Chairman, if I could, there's one thing that I did neglect to touch on. I think that Councilmember Frazier asked a really important question: what has changed since now and when the measure to extend what was the 2018 tax was that failed twice. And what I would say that is different is this particular measure would not operate through a quasi-governmental or any other governmental agency. It would operate through the mayor and the city council. So I think that's a major difference. And I think that, if we're listening to the people throughout the city, it is undeniable for people who supported the previous initiative and for people who didn't. One thing that was very consistent is people wanted to know what happened with those dollars. Now, I, for one, don't believe that a full audit or a forensic audit will bear out any kind of smoking gun or, support a lot of the rumor and innuendo and things that have been shared. But whether it pans out that way or not, what will pan out is a full audit to determine how every dollar was spent and whether or not the processes that took place, not only as it relates to that tax, but as it relates to the full city government, has done so most appropriately and in a way that's accountable, that I think the people want to see. So I think that when you ask what's different, I think those are two major differences, is that we not only have called for a forensic audit to take a look back to make sure that everything was done decently and in order according to what people expect, and it's not just limited to the tax, but also the language for this measure includes and requires a full audit every 2 years to ensure that as we move through the process of levying and expending the tax, that it is done also decently and in order. And so with that, I'll stop.
Councilmember Holcomb.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. My question is, and I have two questions if I can ask them.
Mm-hmm.
How many people in your work on this tax support the tax?
Wait, say that again?
In your work in preparation for this tax, how many people support the tax?
Like who? I'm not.
Okay, so you working on the tax, so you and your team have had to do a study that you feel people are going to support the tax.
So you're asking
on a ratio, do you feel that the tax will pass or?
Oh, yeah. Well, and let me say this. I have not, whether we're talking about the people who work for city government, whether we're talking about Stevens Inc. that manages our debt, they have provided some assistance. The city attorney, everybody I think in that regard is doing their job, and I'm not someone who says, you support this, don't you? Now, I have talked with members of my team, department heads to share what this would mean, and I have gotten positive feedback. But I think, honestly, as Councilmember Brown noted, that this is kind of where we start the process. And I've talked to many of you, and I have not tried to pin anyone down and say, what do you think? Do you support it? I've tried to get feedback. I think that if we go through a process and let the people decide, and we go through a process that feeds the best interests of the city where we know the needs exist, if we go through the process in a way that ensures optimal transparency and accountability, then I think we will have a positive outcome. Now, just as Councilmember Frazier mentioned, people she's talked to are not supportive. I have talked to many people, citizens, and some I talked to just the other day in my office who came up and was asking about it. And he was, had reservations. And by the time I finished talking to him, he asked me for copies of this document and was taking notes in the 8 areas and agreed that we have those needs and would be supportive. He wasn't aware about the measure or the component in the legislation that calls for biennial full audits throughout the collection of the tax. And so I think really to answer your question, I'd like to believe that it will pass, and based upon conversations I'm having, I could say, yeah, it will. But I'm also not naive enough to think that just because someone tells me that, and I'm the mayor and I'm pressing it, doesn't mean that they're not going to want to make me feel good, but really have reservations. I think that's where the job of the mayor's office and city government and all of us is really important. I think it's important for Councilmember Mays and Councilmember Frazier and any other city council member who has hard questions, who has reservations, to use this process to levy those questions and make sure that changes that may need to be made to the measure be made so that this is done in the right way. So my answer is yes, people I've been talking to are supportive, but I will add to that I think we have a lot of work to do, just like any campaign, to be able to make sure that when people are making a decision about this, that they have the information and that they can feel comfortable and confident that we are not moving through this in a haphazard way, but are instead, planning in a way that meets and addresses their recommendations and really what's best for their community, for their neighborhood, and for this whole city.
Well, I've had citizens come to me. Some are not ready for. They don't want a tax, and that's just the bottom line. And some have reservations about the tax, and they don't have any information. Now, you mentioned about town hall, a town hall meeting.
Yes.
In my opinion, before we vote to send this to the council, I would hold a town hall meeting to inform the public of what you expressed on the night, and hold a town hall meeting before we vote to send this to the council, so the public would be better informed. That's just my opinion. Mm-hmm. I know my opinion don't mean much, but
it does.
But that's just my opinion before we voted tonight.
I would ask for, in giving you the assurance that we would be holding town hall meetings to inform the public, so that what we put in the resolution, which will outline the parameters for this, would include any and all specifics that are critical to how this is implemented. Because no matter what, the language of the ordinance to levy the tax and the language of the ordinance to place it on the ballot are necessarily broad. As a matter of fact, probably the most specific thing in there is the component to require the forensic audit, the biennial forensic audit, okay? So I think that coupled with the timeline to get it on the ballot, and then there being several months in which we have to discuss with the public, exactly what this means, exactly how they would benefit individually and in the neighborhoods and in the community and across the city. I think that would be our job, to have robust conversations and discussions. But none of this is new. We've been having these conversations, I think, in the community. I've been having with you all individually, and been very clear that this is something that we were working on, and that this is something that, in order to address our needs beyond our balanced budget, that we would need more revenue. That's just clear. That's fact. And either we are going to be a part of progress when we know that our departments need more resources to do their jobs effectively, when we know that there have been deferred maintenance throughout city government and throughout our communities, and all of this while communities like Conway continue to grow and become the fastest growing city with a beautiful, quaint, developed downtown. In the time that we have been collecting taxes for initiatives that people can see and that many they can't, other cities have completely renovated and attracted private development to their downtown and throughout their entire cities. One of them being Conway, another one being Hot Springs, another one being Batesville. We cannot begin to expect for private businesses to make investments in our community, whether it's opening a store or moving their operation here and bringing jobs to Pine Bluff, if we do not have skin in our own game. No one is coming to save us. We have to make sure that we have skin in our own game if we expect others to put skin in our game. And that's whether we're talking about a grant or a business or industry or even tourists. Public lighting is expensive, and we can wait and not have additional resources to build out our public lighting so that the rest of our city is as well lit as Walmart and the casino, or we can gather the funds and prioritize our spending in areas to ensure that we are ready to grow our economy and provide jobs and start businesses and attract residents and attract tourists. That's what this is all about. I've been real consistent. There are 3 priorities that I've been very consistent about, and all 8 of these areas mentioned that would flesh out the specifics around this measure speak to those areas.
Councilmember Lockett.
Madam Mayor, I got to tell you what I told the last tax people. I can't vote for a tax without a budget attached to it that itemizes where the money goes. I really don't have enough information in my inbox. Now, I thank you for providing that guidance, but as you read where the money was going, the big question with me as a council member was why the council didn't have that information. So we are to pass a tax and then figure out how to spend it later?
No.
But what I'm saying is,
no.
The tax that I most admire is the one we passed with Maritas, where it itemized where the expenditure would go. And from that experience, I've been sold on that as being the method, and I just can't support taxes that don't have budgets with them to say where money is going to go categorically and with a timeline specifically on what and how we're going to do it. And I understand Councilwoman Frazier's frustration. Now, you've been in the legislature. Now, when the committee does a bill, it's on the internet for everybody to see way before the committee meeting happens. We get this 30 minutes before we get it. I mean, that is unconscionable. That's just not right. We got to do better.
I would like to say this, though. I know that if you're referring to my experience on the legislature, first of all, I agree that this information should be available on the internet. We just don't happen to have a system and a communications system that allows for that. And that's something, actually, that this tax would pay for. That's something that you and I have talked about in terms of expanding our communications so that we can have access to this information in real time. But in comparison to the state process, other members who are not on a committee do not get information and do not get packets for committee meetings. And I'll just say this. Rarely at any point, I think because of the challenges of FOIA and just everything that has been on our plate, I think the next council meeting, we would address our sanitation contract, which we've been working on. We've engaged in interviews for a new police chief and been working to ensure that the legislation dealing with electronic pay, all of that is going to be at the next council meeting, and hopefully this measure too. And I appreciate I appreciate what you're talking about as far as a detailed budget. I think that with so many needs and many of the areas that we have prioritized, that can be done. And that would be done when it comes before the full council. What we are looking at today is to put this before the council with the information, because this resolution, as I have discussed with our city attorney's office, is not something that had to or would be presented at the time of these two measures. There is, and I mean, I don't know how else to be transparent with 8 council members. I have phone calls, individual discussions, pull you aside and talk about things as they're going. You gave me some great feedback just the other night. And at no time when we talk, were you concerned about a full budget going before the committee, going before the committee. And I'm telling you that it would be no problem to attach specific budget amounts for the projects that we have an estimate for. Many of these prioritized projects have estimates for them for sure. But I think what we're looking at tonight is about levying the tax and putting it on the ballot and just making it a recommendation to go before the full committee for all of the information to be presented to you.
Can I speak?
Go, Councilman Max.
Yeah. I thank you for your interest. Once again, I'm saying no. I know some people, a lot of people, and they want the forensic audit that I've been pushing for, and you've been holding up.
Council
Now,
member,
let
I
me
don't,
finish, let
no,
me
but
finish.
no,
I'll
but
let
you
you
gotta
finish.
speak, but you have to speak the truth.
Okay, let me finish.
But please speak the truth.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. We don't need a tax until we see more things going on from the city council. A togetherness when we vote on something. It's, this stuff we voted on all the time is not, it's one person. I get stuff late. I'm gonna send y'all to it. And just, it's always a hidden agenda on the city council. I'm not trying to hide nothing from none of y'all. Nobody. I couldn't. People would say, man, they watch us and they know what we're doing. I don't know why you're trying to fool these people. I am not trying to fool nobody. Nobody's granddaddy, nobody's grandmother, nobody's baby, brother, sister. Call me, I'm gonna give you a straight answer, and I'm gonna let you know who is who up here. You can't do these people like this here, man. Man, come on now. These bankers, the bankers try to control us. Tell me, get out of my office, man, get out of here. Because he wanted me to do some things for him. I told him he done lost his mind. I am not, the bankers at Simmons control a lot of people in politics. Now, if the shoe fits, wear it. Even if you're just trying it on for size. The game is over. I'm not selling my soul up here. Let me sit up in church on Sunday, about Jesus, didn't go on. You can't do that.
Okay, so just to respond to your initial point with regard to the forensic audit, I know that you may not be able to appreciate what is involved in the day-to-day, and including what it takes to pull together the right language and get the process in place. But that has been done. So there's no holding anything up. We are in the process right now of an RFP or an RFQ to secure an accounting firm to conduct a full audit, not just of one department, but for the entire city and for the full 7 years of the previous initiative. And what I would say to anyone who believes that we have to wait to receive the full audit, which could take months, could take years, depending on what comes to light. That is like sitting on your hands when you know that your house needs repairs, that you need more insurance on it, that you want to make renovations to it, and you have one budget from one job, and you say, you know what, not until I get every estimate for everything that needs to be done and have all those people come look at the house and find the perfect job in the perfect season with the perfect weather, will I get another job so I can pay for it. If you know your roof needs fixing, you get it fixed. You get another job. Citizens do it every day. They hustle and they work because they know nobody else is coming to pay for their roof.
And may I say this?
That's my Mason.
You see that video up there? Those bankers watch this stuff too. And they tell up here what to do before they get up here. That bunch at Simmons Bank, I ain't got nothing for them. They try to control the city council. And you looking at that video up there. Talk to these people. I mean, really. My mate told me to get out of my office, mate. Get out of my office. Because I didn't go along with what they were saying. I wasn't that busy that nowhere, so I was listening to him. But real talk. I cannot be bought with nobody.
Councilman Brunson.
I just had a comment. Of course, you know, for me, progress comes with taxes, and I do understand that. The only question that I, would have is the time. I want to make sure if it's something that we do indulge in is that we give people time to understand what's going on and what they will be voting for, right? I think that's the biggest thing with some of the concerns with people that me and Lloyd had not a town hall.
We had a town hall meeting.
No, we didn't. We had a neighborhood watching meeting. Oh, well, I guess, okay, so last night, and
I thought you, last night.
Yeah, last night, yeah, so, and that was kind of the concerns that were brought to us, and that's just, and I just want to put it out there and make you aware, because at the end of the day, if it's something that we do, I want it to be successful, and for the city to win.
And that's why I say what I say concerning that you mentioned having a town hall meeting, that the citizens in the city would be more informed about the tax and your key points and what you want to do with the tax before we voted on tonight. She talked about the town hall meeting. We had a town hall meeting.
Oh, yeah, for the other tax, the 586.
The
Yeah,
5 cents tax.
We had our own town hall meetings when we had those taxes. And, you know, I said the same thing then, because it went back on the ballot back to back, right? And I was like, you know, I had concerns then. I'm pretty open on how I am. I'm gonna stand 10 toes down then and now on how I feel about things. And, I had concerns then, but for me, I'm all about progress for the city. But if we're gonna do something, I wanna make sure that we are doing it at the best interest of our people and doing it correctly and not making them feel that it's just something that's being pushed or shoved on them, because I think that's something that a lot of them feel at this point because they felt it about 11 months ago. And that's just kind of the sense that I've been getting. But again, I do understand the purpose. I do understand the need. But again, if we're gonna do it, I would want us to do it successfully.
And I share in that, trust me. I share in that, and I can tell you that seeing what I see day to day, hearing the calls from people, I know we have a job to do, everybody, and I'm interested in doing it in the right way. I also know that time is of essence. And to address your point, Councilwoman Brunson, I would say that once we get and go through a process of debate and discussion to assess the information and see where we are and get it on the ballot, I think that we have to give our people credit. I think that people who voted for the last initiative knew what they were voting for with the information that had been put in front of them. And they said yes. And then when they said no twice. They were very clear. And what I expect is for people to ask tough questions. What I expect is for people to want specificity. What I expect is when people want measures put in place to ensure that that the money is expended transparently, that it is expended by the people they elected, that we will be able to speak to that. I think when we set priorities, when we set a budget based upon the best information that we have, I think that they will hear us, and either they will say yes or no. I think what we're doing right now is talking about the critical importance of the city's needs and what it would take to ensure that we have additional income and additional revenue to address those needs. And, you know, without getting into, I think, a back and forth on what happened in the past, the bottom line is, I think that many members who are serving right here on the city council wanted progress, knew we had needs, and supported the tax, not because of banks, but because we want progress in this city. We want the jobs. I won't even go through the litany of things that I have before. And I think in order for us to do it right, and it has to go through a process. And I think to Council Member Lockett's point about, you know, the legislative process, whether it's the state or the county or the city, it is a process. And, you know, that's where the sausage making happens. That's where there are amendments. You know, that's where you have conversations. We all know that there is not a way or a process for me to be able to talk about things that are going to be considered in a vote in an email or a text message. And we also know that we can't meet and have those conversations. The discussions start here. And I am not suggesting that you vote for the measure. I'm asking that you vote for the measure to go to the full council so that we can fully flesh this out. I think the same concerns that you have and ought to have about people wanting the information, wanting the budget, wanting to know what this will mean for their community, we also ought to be very concerned and clear that there are people watching to see if we still have the same energy for progress now that we had in 2018 and that we had in 2023. Because the issues and the needs are still out there. The potholes are still out there. And really, the dollars that we raised previously were not necessarily going to repairs and to projects that were impacting the whole city. And we have a chance to do that this time. And we have a chance to do it without putting in place a forever tax. This tax would end in 10 years, the whole tax. That is another difference. So when Councilwoman Frazier asked what's the difference, this tax would end in 10 years. No part of it would continue in perpetuity. And what I believe is that if we spend tax dollars in areas that assure that we grow our economy, that we grow our economy in a way to grow jobs, to beautify our city, to address the full city, as well as effectively address downtown, then I think that we will see an increase in our tax base, and I think that we will be able to not continue a tax in perpetuity.
All right, any other, Councilman Mays?
Explain perpetuity.
Forever.
Well, let us make a decision on the legislation, and then we can allow for public comments.
Before we vote.
What's that?
Before we vote, I want to hear, he's a wise man.
The agenda.
I got you, but he is a wise man.
Right, understood. Any other comments from committee members or council members?
Let me just say, I shall not support another tax on these people, and I'm gonna fight against it because they need more clarity. These people sitting around, and this what we're talking about is not helping them. You came off of mayor, off of state level down to the city level. It's totally different. These people are not playing on this city level. The state level is, you know, they might come to a meeting, they might not. But this on the city level, you know, they're more closer to me, I know. I go by the home, I sit down and eat dinner with them, drink coffee with the people. You know, that's just real talk. But it's back in y'all's hands now. But I am voting no.
All right.
Clarification, point of clarification.
Hello?
Oh, Councilman Fells? Councilman Fells, give the mayor 1 second. She started a comment. Let her finish, and then you can go ahead.
I just had a point of clarification. I know that from what I recall, can you tell me the impact of the vote in terms of it going to the council?
I'm
talking to you.
Me?
Yes.
Oh, as far as what we have here today?
Yes.
Okay, so when legislation goes to committee, of course, all ordinances must pass through committee before going to the council. It can come out in 3 different ways. It can come out with a do pass, with a do pass to the full council. It can come out with a do not pass, or it can come out with a no recommendation. Either way, whichever situation it falls into, it can still be placed on the agenda by the sponsor.
Thank you.
Okay. Councilmember Fells.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good evening, everyone. I did want to start off by just acknowledging that I was notified by the mayor that there was interest in bringing this new sales tax onto the city council agenda. So I did get that forewarning. I guess my biggest comment right now, because I'm still just digesting everything that I'm hearing and, listening to what the ordinance says and what some of the proposed uses are. But I think my biggest thing right now is we just have to make sure we're just really communicating to the residents and giving the residents an opportunity to be heard. I think, I do agree that there is a tremendous hunger for progress here in Pine Bluff. I think with the go forward sales tax, we've seen that people are willing to pay an additional amount of money, a small investment, if it means that they're going to see some tangible improvements in their community. But they just have to really buy into the fact that that the people who are running the tax, they have a well thought out plan for the tax, that once the money starts coming in, that it's going to be executed efficiently, professionally, and that, everything is going to be, conducted, legally and above board. And I know that, that's our intention if we are to bring this tax to fruition. But at the same time, we have to, look at it from the citizens' perspective. And, we live this, each and every day. We're very plugged in. But there's a lot of people who, they don't go to city council. They don't listen to Deltaplex. They don't listen to, they don't read the Pine Bluff Commercial. So there are some formal steps that we do in terms of notifying each other and spreading the word. But I think that we have to over communicate when it comes down to this tax, because we don't want people to just feel like this is something that's just coming out of nowhere. I know I will acknowledge that the mayor has been speaking about a sales tax, since your campaign. So it's no surprise that, this is coming to the floor. Well, it's no surprise that, you're pursuing this, within your first year. But for some citizens out there who, they haven't heard anything about a sales tax this year, for them to hear this is suddenly going before the city council in September and it's possibly going to be on the ballot in November, that can be, kind of a shock to some people. And so I would just say, I would just hope that, once this does go to the council, I do hope that we can have 3 readings of this. It's something that I don't think we should push through and suspend new rules to push through. I do agree with council members Holcomb and Brunson. I think if there are some opportunities for us to have some additional town halls, I know that you did have those mayor's mandate meetings, kind of leading up to this whole process. But, in fairness, that was kind of just talking about just the broad vision for the city. It wasn't in the context of we're bringing a tax in November, and this is the conversation to kind of inform what that tax will be, even if that was, might have been, in the back of the mind of some of those people. I just think it would be good to have some dedicated conversations where we're giving people a chance to come before the city council, express, what their concerns are, hear your vision, Mayor, in terms of letting you lay out your presentation, where your use is for it. And I think at the end of the day, that'll just make us as council members a little bit, or I'll just speak for myself. That'll make me more comfortable just knowing that everyone had the opportunity to lay their cards out on the table, and we're making a well thought out vote that isn't rushed. And I'll just leave it at that.
Thank you. Yes.
Okay. Councilmember Hope.
Mr. Chair, if I can, I move that if we can just take a little more time, that we can educate the public a little more on this tax before we vote to take this to the full council.
Okay, so that motion would be just a...
Second.
No, I gotta understand the motion first.
The table it.
So move to table. So it would be basically, coming out of committee would be a no recommendation.
Right.
Not saying, okay, let me clarify that. Basically saying it is coming out of committee with it's not a yes or a no, it's a no recommendation whatsoever.
Well, it goes back to my statement earlier that the public needs a little more information before I can vote to send this to the full council.
Understood. But let me say this, after we have had discussion and read this ordinance, beyond this, the sponsor can still place this on the agenda. We cannot stop it from.
Correct.
Okay. That's why I was trying to make that clear. So even if we tabled it, we've already had discussion, it's been discussed in committee, it would just come out of committee without a recommendation.
I completely understand.
Okay, so your motion is to, you just want to table it? Okay.
Yes, sir.
And so Councilmember Holcomb has a motion to table.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to table this ordinance. I won't say any further discussion. We haven't had discussion. All those in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
All right. Any opposed? Ayes have it. Ordinance is tabled in committee. We have another ordinance.
The ordinance will still go to the.
I know.
So everybody understands it's going to the full body.
It basically comes out as a no recommendation.
Okay.
I mean, that's what it would come out of committee as. Am I correct?
That's correct.
Okay.
Councilmember,
I'm sorry.
there was a comment,
I comment on
request to speak.
on this. Okay, I thought we were going to handle the agenda items and then have non-agenda items and public comment.
It was on the agenda item. You had public, agenda item, public comments, but you didn't call it. It's up to you.
Okay, well, we already made a motion and second on the item, but we can, if somebody needs to speak, that's fine. Who do we have?
Mr. Crompton.
Oh, okay, Reverend Crumpton, come on up to the mic. I don't know if the mic is on. Is the mic on?
Testing. I think it's working.
Okay.
Good evening. I just want to kind of bring some things to the table from a conversation from a young man that got 2 more rotations and he's going to be a doctor. And this is the conversation from a father and son. And I told him sometimes change is not always best, but sometimes a change is needed. And what am I saying? He said, Dad, look like Pine Bluff is on the move. I'm thinking about coming back, opening up my practice in Pine Bluff. Then I read a book entitled Autopsy of a Deceased Church. But maybe I need to write one about the autopsy of a deceased city. And that means when you don't have young people investing back into your city, 70 years from now, we'll all be away from here. But I would like for my grandson and grandchildren to have something to stand on. So please swallow pride and the mindset and come together for the city of progress. God bless you.
Thank you, Reverend. Any other comments? Okay. All right, we'll move on to the next ordinance. We have an ordinance calling a special election in the city of Pine Bluff, Arkansas on the question of levying am I on the right one? Yes. Levying a new 1% sales and use tax within the city of Pine Bluff, Arkansas, and prescribing other matters pertaining thereto. Basically, this goes along with the first ordinance in that it actually kind of spells out what would be on the ballot. So do we need to have, I guess?
I say no.
Well, that was my whole thing. I don't know if the mayor wanted to speak to this one specifically, or do we just want to?
I mean, I don't think we need to beat a dead horse. I'll just say this. I know that this is going to be a very, very tall challenge, rough road, but we're a resilient city, and we are not defined by our challenges. I believe we'll get there. I think we have worked well together on a lot of hard and controversial issues, and I know that as the sponsor and presenter of both of these measures, that it is up to me and others who support the measure to talk to and convince members of this body, as well as other members of the community, as Councilmember Fells mentioned, who may not have heard or know anything. So I'm ready for that challenge. I'm gonna fight for my city, fight for resources, fight for that progress, and I don't mean fight any of you. I mean, fight for support, and I know what it takes to get there. I think all of us have waged and engaged in campaigns to get here, and so I'm ready for that. And this is a process, and I know it's nothing personal. I thank all of you for your comments and your questions and challenges, so that it'll make this better. I feel confident that we'll get there. And with that, I'm prepared for whatever your position is or motion for the other item on the agenda.
Okay, Mayor, I also, now there's also another piece of legislation, there's a resolution that you plan to bring at some point.
That's right. And, and let me reiterate that the only reason that I did not bring it is because that is something that will change as we have discussion and talk about what this should look like and how it should be implemented.
Right.
Okay.
Okay. And I'm not sure, I guess with other council members, I think Councilmember Locke made the point of not having enough detail in it, and maybe if we could just kind of, if you're going to pursue this, then try to get more detail out there for those individuals that have concerns about how those dollars will be spent. And so that would just be our recommendation on my end.
Thank you so much.
Yes, ma'am. And so with this second ordinance, can we get a motion?
Same motion.
So basically, a motion to table.
Yes, sir.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to table. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it. Motion to table is approved. Do we have any other public comments?
Not public comments, but I'm gonna need to clarify the placement of these two tabled items on the agenda. If they're tabled, they're not gonna be up for reading. Is that correct?
No, they'll be on the agenda, because they can't.
Right, now place them on the agenda,
And they
but
will
not
be up for first reading.
for first reading.
Correct. And
Okay.
if they suspend it, if council suspends the rule, then, same protocol.
To table, okay.
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Okay. Any announcements? Okay. All right. Hearing no announcements, no further comments, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn?
Second.
All right. We are adjourned. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, who has my dinner tonight?